every single one of us here today is practicing something I call social wellness. How did it feel on a scale of 1 to 10? At least lie, okay? How much did you enjoy getting together? All right. And it's because people like Carly didn't sleep for 3 days, so thank you. I just want you to know that every single person here has been micro-traumatized, if not traumatized, by this pandemic. I need you to recognize that, okay? And it sounds like it's just all about deaths, and it's not. But I wanted to give you the statistic that just literally went to press yesterday for us in this book. They're just numbers. 7 million people died in the world, 7 million people got infected in the world, and 1% died. Whoopee-doo, kind of, right? But it's the equivalent of the entire population of Arizona, like one state got wiped out. And when we talk about the number of Canadians that died of COVID, can you imagine for almost the entire year, one Airbus crashed? You've all been on Airbuses, so I just want you to relate to it that way. And the US, you can see the numbers are actually higher because it should have been 520,000, but you know why, we won't talk about it. For them, when I talk to the US division, it's like 16 Super Bowl football fields. That help? That's how many stadiums of people died. So it seems like, okay, so there's a number, but the average household has 2.5 people in it. Some have 2, some have more. So 3 times the number of people have been affected because one family member died. And I say that to you because you take care of families. I know that because you take care of me. And you care about me and my family. And I just want you to realize that it's just not your customer that signs the check, but the people around them. So take a moment to address that. The other thing that has been not talked about is something called long COVID. How many people have heard of it? Good. I'm going to say to you that, unfortunately, people who got COVID early on, whether they had Wuhan or Delta, became likely more sick with long COVID. And these are just some data numbers. I don't need to read them to you. All to say that 15% of Canadians right now are still not right. And half are only partially recovered. Now, you might sit here, as a group here, and those who are virtual, there's at least 1,000 of you, right? So you're statistically significant. Okay, so I want you to realize that a lot of your team members are not really recovered. And if you think that why is there so much mental health issues going on? We were in a bad state already, but then we accelerated it because we also had trauma to our brain with the virus. Forget all the micro-traumas emotionally. And 1 in 4 people, because of COVID, ended up with anxiety and depression worldwide. So you're not imagining that people are angrier and crazier. No, they are. I mean, I don't know about you. I think I try to be very mindful of it. But doctors, for the first time, my friends say, the first time in my life, patients are angry. And I won't get into that today. It's all in this new section that I'm not going to talk about today. But long COVID is not about being short of breath. I get it. 3 times more people, you're going to end up with breathing that's not right. But most of it, on the right-hand side of this pie, is things that you can't see. Fatigue and memory problems. Then comes shortness of breath. And if you have sleep problems now, it may not be your fault. Might have been after you've had COVID. And these joint pains. So I want you to realize that there are a lot of things that you don't realize COVID has done to you. This book, as I was doing the research in it, really quite shocked me and humbled me that this virus is still within all of us and it's messing with us. And so I don't want you to take it for granted yourself today. Just ask yourself, do yourself an audit. In a workshop, we might be more comfortable to talk about it, but I won't get people to put their hands up. in case you're wondering, when we were seeing all this television, I would just sit there and they'll say, well, apparently this young man just died of COVID, just dropped dead. And I see it, and I'm going to say that I look at them and they're young teenagers, 16 years old, but they were 300 pounds because you can see the photo. They're not healthy. So if you had one of these conditions, you were more likely to have a complication from COVID. So just do a little audit on that. And interestingly, there are 5 simple things, I jokingly say this to you, that will reduce 80% of common chronic conditions such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and yes, cancer. And this is Cancer Month. And I want you to know that 1 in 4 of you, so each table, this is almost like in medical school, look to your right, look to your left, 1 in 4 of you are going to get cancer in your lifetime and die from it, okay? It's actually 1 in 2 that you'll get it, 1 in 4 will die from it. All right, so, yeah, it's a scary thought. So there's 5 simple things that you need to do, and I'm jokingly saying that if you can do 5 of these simple things, you will less likely get those issues that we just talked about, okay? So I was jokingly talking to my team when I was showing them the slides. I said, it's easier for me to sign over my house to you than it is to do all 5 of these things. So I think it is. You just bring me papers, and now I sign electronically. Now, you are all in wealth management, which means you take care of high net worth and ultra high net worth. They're a very special group, and I am myself privileged to be taking care of the 1%ers or less than 1%ers in this city across the country. And if one of you has seen this house, you've been to this home. And I realize this quote is very important, and I want to share it with you. First, I had time, but no money. That sounds like my kid. Second year working in New York City, thinks this is the life. Then I had money, but no time, which is probably most of the people in Canada. Then finally, I had time and money, but no health to make use of my wealth. So as I sit here today and hang out with you guys for a couple hours, you are part of a very elite team. And fortunately, working at RBC, you have a comfortable, if not good, income. And I want you to think of this in this context to help your clients understand that they can enjoy their wealth, and in some weird way, when we were talking about foundations, in some cases, the hospital foundations want their donors to pass away, others don't because it has to be vetted. So I want you to recognize that this is something that I want you to think about. So there's only 3 things that we're going to accomplish today. The first one is to combat these predictable and preventative illnesses. I'm going to go through them quite quickly because generally I do a couple of workshops with this. And then I'm going to equip you with some quick skills so that you can live a longer and healthier life. And last but not least, empower you to take what you've learned today, bring it home to your family, not only your home family, but this RBC family, and in this case, your customers, because you're very close to them. I know each of you are. This is an elite division, and I know that. So let's move on. There are 3 pillars that you need to accomplish. The first one is to be self-aware. Now, most of you would understand this. I'm going to help you with this. Is to be self-aware that your credit score is awful. So what is your health score? The second one is your self-care skills. And generally, we throw it over to you to manage our self-care skills of managing my money, right? Nothing's wrong until it's wrong, right? So, and then the self-control, which in some ways you can help, but then there's clients of ours that all spend money like, what did you buy? You can't afford that. My question to you is, what did you do? You can't afford that. You had 10 drinks last night? You can't afford that. I heard some people had drinks last night. I was sitting. Did you have a party last night? It was a mocktail bar, right? Mocktail bar?
Not quite.
Not quite. Half and half. All right, so today we're going to do a lot of talking and you're doing a lot of listening. I want you to pull the other levers on your own. All right? They need to happen for you. You need to know your numbers and you need to develop coping skills. So we're going to quickly go at this. Read this out loud. Can you read it out loud to me like church? You are not superhuman. But I think this is kind. This is just a data point. I'm just going to leave it on. I think you can read it. That means 80% of your table is exhausted right now. No, none of this is you, right? You're not irritable. You actually can't pause to relax. I guess the hockey game Tuesday wasn't a relaxing thing. I turned it off after 2 goals. I got ahead of the game. Sleeping, can't sleep, wake up early, and emotional issues. Now, this is a data point for senior leaders. I know that some of you who are watching virtually, I'm looking at you, I can see you there. You might say, this data point is not relevant to me. I'm begging you to get your blank together because your bosses may not have the skills and you can remind them they need to take better care of themselves. So it starts by showing you the data that says inconsistent to consistent to not making any time. Now this is a KPI that Kim's going to add to your performance review. And we've set the consistently make time at, what do you want to set it at? Let's pick a number. We're going to make it up on the rim. Is there any HR people here? Where are they? I'm going to pick, oh, there she is in the back. What number would you like?
How are you measuring it?
How about going to have a massage once a week and then submitting it? Okay, I just blew out your budget, but that's okay. All right. That's another argument I have with the HR team. Like, why do you do 5 massages a year? So what happens to the rest of the year? Okay, I have a plan for that. We can talk later. Now, when I walked in the back of the room, there were more bald heads than there were blonde hair. What's the mix here, Kim? Men to women. Genetics. Oh, he has genetics. We're pretty balanced? Okay. So I'm not asking the guys to be sympathetic or empathetic. I just want you to recognize that sometimes us ladies have 2 jobs, and it got worse during COVID. And I'm just putting it out here to say if you don't learn how to take care of yourself now, when you become a senior leader, you're going to burn out. Okay, so I want you to know that I'm sorry I picked a white male photo, but it's not like pointing at them, so this is my disclaimer here at the moment. I just want to recognize that this is data points around the average Canadian. 2/3 of us sitting here are overweight or obese. 10% of you in here have diabetes, at least as a team. Almost 10% of guys and women exponentially rising use alcohol regularly. And it is interesting that people who are obese generally have a higher incidence of mood and anxiety disorder, and maybe because they're using food as a way of managing their stress. And you sleep less, and you're unfit. All right, no surprises, but I wanted you to know. So let's talk about 3 things today: detoxing, de-stressing, and hormone balance. And I'm going to go quickly because I would like to go through the Q&A because this is going to take like a whole workshop. Okay, I'm going to give you the good news. It is good news. It's not your fault. Every year you're going to gain a pound or two doing nothing because your metabolism is slowing down. But then as you're getting older, you're more affluent, and instead of getting no drinks, you have a bottle of wine or 2 bottles, right? Or 10 drinks of something, right? And dessert and God knows what else, okay? So, and then now we sit in front of a Zoom all day and don't even move. And so that's the problem. Now, why I bring this up? Metabolic syndrome increases your risk for diabetes and stroke. You only need 3 of these. I don't even need you to be obese. I just need you to have what I call a little bit of a Santa Claus weight. And your triglycerides are your light chain fats. They're part of your cholesterol profile. It's elevated. And your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, is decreased. Or your blood pressure or your blood sugar is abnormal. Just 3 out of 5 of these. And this is why most of us as Canadians or North Americans don't realize how easy it is to slip into diabetes. So when you have these issues, that's great, because then you know your numbers. I'm not sure how many of you know these numbers I just asked you to know about. So can you tell me your LDL, your HDL, your A1C, and your insulin levels? So I hear some yeses and I hear some nos. And I think you all have a health savings account. You can use that to get tested if your family doctor doesn't want you to. I love this Lumen machine. How many of you have one of these? Ooh, look it up. It's a wonderful device to help you know whether you should be eating no more carbs or eating some carbs when you're exercising. And I don't have shares in this. And I don't think they are an RBC customer, so we're okay. We don't have no conflict. All right, so these are some numbers. I just wanted to show you that this is what I regularly do to harass my clients. Because I feel morally responsible for them to stay healthy so they keep contributing to all the hospital foundations and doing all the important work that they do, which they do, right? Well, if it wasn't for them, we'd be in real trouble. And not to mention the fact that they run a lot of companies that run the country. So I just don't like them dead. It's a really bad poster, you know? I just want to show you this, not because you're going to read all of this, but half of people do have a relationship with food. And it's a habit that when we stress, we eat. And then there's other things that we do when we're stressed. And I'm just going to leave them down at the bottom just for you to look at. And the numbers exploded during COVID. And because they exploded during COVID, it's really hard to back out of these dysfunctional behaviors. So I'm not suggesting that around here people are doing that, but there's so many people you interact with, and it's just a good thing to be able to help them. Now I'm going to do science. All right, this morning you didn't have breakfast. That's called fasting. That's the line. And then they overfed you at lunch because half of you don't eat lunch. Is that true? That's true, I hear. Then your sugars go up, and because you're sitting, instead of biking while you're listening to all of us talk, your blood sugar goes up, your body doesn't know what to do with it, and it stores sugars as fat. That's what insulin does. And then now, you're sitting here, and I'm between you and your family, and your sugar's coming down, and you're having brain fog. So I was just trying to get you to get up and down and like shake up your head so that, you know, some of the sugar comes down from your brain, okay? So this is where the storage goes on. Okay, now we're going to talk about steps. 10,000 steps. Do you know who created 10,000 steps? When I was doing this story for CP2 for some Japanese marketing company. But it turns out the science finally came out. Between 8 to 10,000 is okay. But if you're over 60, probably 6 to 8 is okay. And if you're overweight, obese, which is 2/3 of the population, you actually need to do more than 10,000. Now here's the important thing. Even 4,000 steps is good enough. It's better than nothing. It keeps you from getting dementia. And then if you can just get up, I think that was the benefit of being in the office, because every 5 minutes we get up to go to somebody else's office. Okay, that reduced your blood sugar by 60%. So that is a good reason why I should have given this to Dave Mackay to tell us in the news that we could reduce diabetes if you just go back to work. I know, he was the front man on this. So here's the DASH diet. You may not have heard about it. How many of you have? It's the only diet I recommend because it's a normal diet. It's not a fasting diet. It's not a keto diet. It's a low-salt diet that actually looks like Mediterranean diet. And we eat too much salt. So there's been a couple of stories and reels I've done. And it turns out the arrowroot cookie has the same amount of salt as bear paws. I was shocked. Oh my God. And actually, by 2 grams, I think the arrowroot cookie had more sugar in it. Here I was like, All right, so what I'm just saying is I don't have time to yap with this, but I just want you to know if you're going to do a diet, this is the healthy one to do. Because it's kind of normal. Boring, but normal. How many of you eat 4 to 5 servings of vegetables? A day, yeah. So, all right, I'm going to explain that to you later. All right, this is what Kim wanted me to talk to you about. Get to the meat now. Okay, but I told her we can't just talk about sleep because she makes you work too hard, right? And then you don't have time to sleep. Okay, everybody asks me this question at events. How do I know if I'm stressed out or burned out? So take a picture, do the survey, go home and go, I'm going to ask you questions at home. Yes, you can take out your phone. You can take it out and take as many pictures as you want. And I think this is going online for about 2 weeks.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And then what we want you to know is that depends which side you're on. Now, do you know which side you're on? On both sides, right? Okay. All right, I'm going to show you which side you're leaning on. And then let's show you how to measure it. Has anybody had a 4-point cortisol test? Has anybody measured their brain chemicals? All right, so here's the secret. I know how crazy my clients are. Do you? I'm way ahead of you guys, so maybe you should work with me. I'll tell you. I'll show you in a minute. All right. These are 4 curves, and I'm going to explain them to you. Very rarely are people having a normal cortisol curve. You start in the morning, fully charged, like the cell phone. All right? And then it discharges as you use it, and then you plug it back in at night. Is that simple? And then the bottom one's really easy. The battery from the iPhones or whatever magically hit 3 years and it stopped charging. That's this one. Now you can actually get this and create this curve by drinking too much coffee. Why? Because coffee is a drug. And the ladies will understand it. It's like taking birth control pills. You just don't ovulate when you drink caffeine. Your adrenal glands that make your cortisol, which is your fight or flight or adrenaline hormone or your turbo booster, just shuts down. So if you don't artificially feed it with more coffee and more caffeine, you are exhausted all the time. So that's the bottom curve. The top right curve is when there's just too much going on, you're not fully charged because you're actually not getting enough sleep or you're not eating well enough. So you have enough in the morning, maybe it's a little higher, and then you start tanking. And then by 11, you really need your coffee. And then the last one, I just want you to know that pushing past exhaustion. So this was very funny because this executive said to me, "That's wrong." I go, "What's wrong?" It's a test. It's your own spit, you know, it comes out this way. And he says, how can I have a cortisol curve looking like that? And then I hear his wife at the back, that day you were just calling Singapore. He started his Singapore 10 a.m. call at 10 p.m. So there you go. You can be exhausted and then push your body and it will go. And then when you do that, you wonder why you can't sleep. Guys will tell you if they play hockey at 10 o'clock, they can't go to bed till 3 a.m. Right, guys? Not to mention the 3 beers that was going on with it. Okay. Okay, this is how I can know that if you're manic or depressed. And I'm just giving you the top curve, which is kind of a normal curve. I'm going to walk through it very quickly. Your serotonin is your happy hormone. Your GABA is your calming hormone. Your dopamine is your addiction hormone. And your norepinephrine, which is noradrenaline, breaks down into adrenaline or epinephrine. So the second curve, I know this is a person that's the same person, but I want to use this as a different example. Is typically my clients who are entrepreneurs. You know why? I've actually sorted them out. I can predict. Because they're so happy, they think nothing can go wrong. And they're pretty chill, some of them. But if they're not and they can't sleep, it's usually because their GABA is very low and they have panic attacks. And I just need to give them some GABA. So serotonin, in case you're smoking weed, is stimulated by THC, and CBD stimulates GABA. So if you have a normal curve on the top, you'll be one of those people that go, doesn't do me anything. And in fact, if you smoke weed and you're already on the high side, like the second curve, you're going to get really agitated. And that's what I learned during the early parts of this use of cannabis and testing people. Now down the bottom is, I'm going to tell you, most of my bankers, and it's a good thing, I think, because you're pessimistic. Everything's half full. You really shouldn't do that, Elaine. Are you sure you want to stretch yourself that much? And then I'm not nervous, but they're nervous for me. So I don't know which side of the curve, half your banker, maybe your sales team is the top one and the bottom one is the people that manage them or try to manage them. But this is the fun curves. So I don't know where you sit, but I just thought it'd be interesting to let you know. All my people who run publicly traded companies have this lower curve.
Elaine, did you say this is the same person?
It is, but it's the same kind of thing that I can show you that Kim asked, is this the same person? So what I did here was with the same person, I had him normalized in 2019 and then 2018 and then 2019. He was really in great shape. And then he forgot to take all his meds, and then it was a telco company, you know which one it was, and he stopped taking everything, and then he's like having panic attacks, and I'm like, you on your stuff that I've given you? Because you can take 5-HTP to help with serotonin. And actually, antidepressants are what we call serotonin uptake inhibitors, so it pushes up your serotonin. All right, so this is a cool thing. You can do it for yourself. I'm going to let you read this. Are you wondering if you're self-deprived? So if you didn't hear, so I'm going to go feeling sluggish in the afternoon. If you're ready for a nap right now, it's probably because you didn't get enough sleep, you were partying too late. So these are things that are causing you to know that you're sleep deprived. And these are the objective things that we know insufficient sleep causes. So you might say, in our earlier days, our generation would have been saying, I can't believe I'm saying our generation, is that, like, go to the end, right? Like, like if you can't do it, then you're not made of the right stuff. But this is not good. Most people are actually sleep deprived, and that's why that's causing a whole bunch of hormones that are switched out, and it's increasing the obesity rate, and therefore all the things that we've just talked about. So sleep is really important. So what is important sleep? Now, how many of you have got some device that knows whether you have REM sleep, non-REM sleep? Good. Everybody needs to use their health savings account and buy something to do this, okay? The reason is that you need at least 4 sleep cycles. Some people do them very quickly, Some people take longer. But so that's why sometimes 6 hours for some people is great, and some people need 9. That's not enough. It's quality of sleep, not quantity of sleep. So you want stage 1 to 3. The third stage is deep sleep. Some people can't get there. And that's why sometimes GABA is important. And so you want deep sleep to recover your bones and tissues and to repair your body. But stage 4, which is your sleep that you dream in, you get more of that as the night goes along. So if you cut yourself off sleep, you can't defrag your brain and rebuild it. It's like, sometimes when our computers they call them defragging. You can't defrag, and those neural connections don't happen. And I know that sometimes I used to watch my kid when he's at school and he's doing exams. It's only grade 12, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't say anything. He's going to bed at 2 a.m. and the next day's exams. But I try to objectively explain to him that he needs to get sleep to do well the next day. Okay, this is the same slide. Sorry about that. Okay. These are the only 3 things I want you to do, so take a picture of that. All right, how many of you have put that nighttime screen on your phone? Do you know what I'm talking about? If you don't, go ask the person beside you who just nodded their head, okay? Because you need to. Because unfortunately, you're now using that phone to wake you up. And you put it by your bed. I still use an old alarm clock because I can't see it. So it's the only time I bring that thing and it wakes me up is the 5:30 a.m. call that I have to get to the station at 6:30, and then getting an airplane, which we all don't sleep. At least some of us don't. And then you need to avoid the stimulants. Stop drinking any caffeinated things after 3 p.m. And try not to work out after 5 because it gets the adrenaline going. Remember that cortisol? You can push your body. Now, when you're at university, I learned my kids were all in engineering, and they went to work at 11 p.m. so they keep pushing. It's just like, ow. But this is what it is. And alcohol, in case you haven't noticed, it does impair your sleep. You can't get deep sleep. Now, these are nice to haves. I'll give it to you. You can take a picture of that. But if you can't do the first 3, forget about the rest of them. All right, are you ready for this? It's a data point. 1 billion people in 2 years is going to be either menopausal or andropausal in the world. 1 billion people. I wonder how you can capture that on a financial perspective. I'll let you think about that. But you can see all the symptoms that are related to menopause and andropause. And it's a different phase in people's life. And half of your life is going to be spent in menopause and andropause because we're living longer. So what we do is we measure estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And sometimes we need to chill our brains out because of the hormone fluctuation. These Muse headbands really work nicely. If you haven't heard of them, if you're having trouble meditating, it's a good device to have. And these are the hormones I measure routinely as well with my clients, just to know where they're at. Now, I want to call out something. When I was in my 30s, I did a lot of work in menopause. And then I stopped talking about it completely because somebody told me to write a book in menopause. And I thought, I think I'm a little too early to write a book about menopause. But all of a sudden now, everybody's talking about menopause again because all these movie stars and influencers are talking about being in menopause or andropause. And I bring this out to you because it impacts the glass ceiling. The average woman will go into menopause at the age of 51, which means that their periods stop. But there's a plus minus of 14 years, which is around the time when you're actually going through your career, trying to get to a place where you want to be, or winding down. Everybody says they've been impacted by this hormonal change, which means for the guys, the women around you have all those other symptoms that you don't like. So it's important to know that 1/3 of us, women who are in menopausal symptoms, have been impacted severely. Of that, 60% of them will say that they've taken time off work. And then 18% took more than 8 weeks off. And that group, almost 10%, resigned or quit and took early retirement at the age of 51. So you think about the fact that we're trying to encourage women to take leadership roles. I do believe, objectively, this is one of the reasons why. So here's the next steps. These are the other 3 things that are non-sleep related. I talked about vegetables, and you saw something about grains in the DASH diet. We actually have bugs in our gut that make something called serotonin. 80% of our happy hormone is made in the gut. And I do believe our young people are having more depression-like symptoms on top of the alcohol and the cannabis, that they're not eating fruits and vegetables and their gut is dead, and they're not making serotonin, which is their happy hormone. Alcohol also kills it. So if we don't sleep enough, we don't eat high fiber, we don't feed our gut biome, our mental health is an issue. You need to make time to calm down. You need to. And last but not least, don't aggravate your physiology by doing what I call exogenous toxins. Some of the stuff we can't help at work and at home, but you don't need to feed it. So take a picture of this, and then this is your action plan. 90% of you here did not do your checkup during COVID. That's the data that is coming in my book. As a result of it, there's been a delay in disease detection. There's going to be more complicated later stage cancers being diagnosed right now and over the next couple of years that we could have potentially prevented because of earlier detection. So if you've not had your checkup, do so, and make sure everybody else around you do. And then we talked about the carbohydrates, the fruits and vegetables, and we talked about the caffeine. I'm sure everybody knows by now, right? What is the recommendation of alcohol intake per week? 1 to 2 a week. So you exceed the whole month yesterday. So you're going to have a dry rest of May. I think that'd be fair. All right, so why do you drink tea? Because it's got theanine, and it also, in some teas, promotes GABA. It calms you more down than to drink the caffeine coming out of coffee. So you might want to try that. And herbal teas. And we talked about quality of sleep. We talked about, I'll take any amount of steps. How many of you can actually think about the times when you can do a meeting and walk the meeting? I have executives when we were at TELUS who would just go around and, I mean, these buildings are so big now. They just go around in circles and do the meeting in a circle. It's a matter of getting a habit to it. And I now have a yoga mat because I'm really stiff all the time to watch TV when I'm winding down. It's just like get down and stretch. I would do that. And then I'm happy that you guys are back together. My take-home message is to check on those people that you've not seen in here. Hi there. They'll come and check on you. And plan some more social activities because loneliness is an issue. I think social phobia has also become an issue. And so I want you to think about this. You give us a lot of money to renovate our homes. We spend a lot of time going to school, and even you were here today to upgrade our careers. And some people try to upgrade their partners. But when was the last time you renovated yourself? I don't want you to renovate yourself to the point that you leave RBC. Is that the disclaimer? Okay. So Kim will let you have time to take care of yourself, but do not leave. And I want you to remember this very important message for the team here and the team that couldn't come, is that for now, we have to give cultural permission to model self-care. Take an example. Maybe the next dinner you all have together is alcohol-free. Give permission for those who really don't want to drink or who shouldn't. Or instead of going to eat, do something active. So we are currently going through a big cultural transformation as downtime, recovery time, recharging time are increasingly recognized as part of peak performance.